Hi, I'm Dr. Clifford Albert, and it's our weekly segment on Facebook Live. So today I'm discussing how Botox helps prevent wrinkles. And Botox is really an amazing medication that treats so many different things. It's a Canadian invention, and I'm actually going to talk about how Canada is involved in this. The cosmetic uses of Botox were discovered by Alistair and Jean Carruthers, and they are two physicians in Vancouver who basically, Jean Carruthers, who's an ophthalmologist, was using Botox for treating strabismus. And when strabismus is basically cross eyes. So what they noticed was that anytime they treated people who had cross eyes, the wrinkles around the eyes would disappear. And so one night, Jean mentions it to her husband, Alistair, who's a dermatologist, and she says to him, my patients are coming back and telling me that I don't have wrinkles around my eyes anymore. So he little light bulb goes off, and he says, wow, we have no real way of treating that. And so the next day he basically says to her, why don't we treat your wrinkles and see what happens? So he treats her wrinkles and then around her eyes, and then 3 days later, she's got no wrinkles around her eyes. So you can see how this kind of all happened by accident, because imagine you've got all these cross-eyed people, and it's nothing to knock cross-eyed people, who are coming back so they're getting this done for a medical reason, and then they start coming back and telling the doctor, a month or two later, that they've got no more wrinkles around their eyes. And then she mentions it to another doctor who's a dermatologist who treats wrinkles, whereas she wasn't treating wrinkles. And so by accident, this entire thing comes together. So it takes them about 3 years to get 30 patients together for their first original study. And they start injecting these people around their eyes. And lo and behold, these 30 people who never thought of getting Botox done because they didn't have cross eyes to begin with are using the most toxic substance on earth in terms of medication, most toxic medications that we use to treat wrinkles. And so they convinced 30 people who must have been out of their minds to do this. And so those 30 people do it, and then they present their study in 1992. And after that, it just kind of went exponential. And it hit Hollywood, kind of like drugs. And from Hollywood, it went all over the world. And now Botox there's about 7 different strains of botulinum toxin. The most common ones that are being used now are Botox from Allergan. There's Botox, which comes from a company called Merce, and that's called Xeomin. And there's Dysport, and those are the 3 most commonly used worldwide. And what Botox basically does, it is a medication that blocks the acetylcholine receptor. And the acetylcholine receptor is a very important receptor for pain, very important receptor for muscle control. And so what we're able to do is form an irreversible block in this receptor. So imagine these 2 molecules, Botox comes in and blocks that receptor just like putting gum into a lock. And when you put gum into a lock, you can't use a lock anymore. It's kind of the same thing with Botox. So when Botox enters into the acetylcholine receptor, it forms an irreversible bond. And essentially, until a new receptor is formed, you can't use that receptor anymore. So really, it's like doing a short circuit of the muscle. So what's interesting about Botox is you can put it anywhere there's a muscle. So we use it in the face for wrinkles. We use it for stroke victims to fix asymmetries. We use it for spasm in the esophagus, spasm in the bladder, spasm in the rectum. So if there's anywhere where you've got an excessive muscle contraction, you can block that muscle using botulinum toxin. And it will typically form an irreversible bond, and then until a new receptor is formed, which takes about 4 to 6 months, that receptor is not going to work anymore. So that's why Botox usually has to be repeated every 6 months. But if you do that, you're going to help prevent wrinkles. And that's the key, is prevention. Because I'm all about prevention. Prevention with using, you can prevent wrinkles and spots by avoiding the sun. But what you also want to do is help prevent those deep lines from forming. So by putting in botulinum toxin, you stop deep lines from forming. And that's really the key. So around the face, and just to show you a little picture here, we have multiple muscles. So around the eye, you have a circular muscle. And what this circular muscle does is pinches on the outside and pinches on the inside. We also have 3 muscles in the forehead. So you have, between the eyebrows, you have 1, 2, and 3 muscles. And so we can also inject those to relax the face. In the forehead, and this is where a lot of men get this, and I get this myself, and that's why I inject Botox in my forehead. You can see I don't get those deep lines anymore. I get 1 deep one. I used to get 3 lines in my forehead, but now I only get 1. But the key is to make it look natural. So when men have these really deep furrows, which cause lines in the forehead, you can relax those with botulinum toxin. Typically, we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 injections along the forehead. And when we're treating him, we do 1, 2, 3 little injections, and that will essentially stop any muscle movement in between the eyebrows. So you can see I can't do it. I can't get mad in between my eyebrows. Now, I always want to allow a little bit of motion because I don't want people to look plastic. That's not the point. I want it to look natural. Around the eye, you've got muscle contraction in the corners over here, and you've got muscle contraction in the corners over here. So essentially, we can inject there, and we can inject there, and stop those muscles from forming so you don't get wrinkles around the eyes. So again, this is prevention. And a lot of you may have friends who have very deep lines in areas, and that's because they've let it go on for years and years and years. Now, by injecting small amounts over long periods of time, you're going to avoid those lines getting deeper. So I used to get really, really deep lines in my forehead, and I can't do it anymore. Most of my forehead's pretty relaxed, but again, I don't want it to look plastic. So I always want it to look a little, have a little bit of movement, leave some natural movement so that people don't look like they're completely immobile. But you can say, I can't get mad. I don't have wrinkles around the eyes. Very simple things that we can do to keep people looking young. And this is always part of the plan. And the plan is always, what do I need to relax? What do I need to refill? What do I need to repave? And what do I need to repair? So by combining techniques, and so Botox is one part of it, I look at it like just part of the plan. You want to relax what moves too much, and then you want to refill. And fillers can be used to fill in things like around the nasolabial folds and in the cheeks. You can see, this is one of the things I've done. I've had a little bit of filler put in my cheeks, and so this will typically, depending on the fillers you use, you have ones that will last 3 to 6 months, ones that will last 6 to 12 months, and ones that will last 1 to 2 years. So again, by combining things, you're going to get a better effect. And then you also want to treat the skin. So that's where the repaving comes in. So repaving is where I'm using lasers, and we have different types of lasers. We have lasers for pigmentation, and that's what we call IPL with RF. And IPL with RF is one of the devices that we use. And what IPL will do is essentially get rid of all the pigmentation and close all the little blood vessels and give it an even more homogeneous skin. So we want better skin. So relaxing with Botox, refilling with fillers, and then repaving with lasers. And then you can also combine IPL RF, which is going to tighten at the same time as it's getting rid of spots. You can then also use things like the Pearl. And the Pearl is a laser that essentially makes, think of like multiple pixels in the skin. And so what I'm doing with the Pearl lasers, I'm taking a laser that's going to make multiple fine holes in the skin that you can barely see. Those holes then disappear, but then you get a tightening of the skin. So by using these different types of devices, combined with things like botulinum toxin and fillers, you can really prevent a lot of signs of aging. And, if I compare the amount of surgery that I did 10 years ago to what I do now, it's completely changed. The amount of surgery that we do now has just decreased significantly because we're seeing that over many years by using easy, simple techniques, you can avoid aging. I'm getting a lot of comments here that are coming in. What does it cost to do this? This is great. I love this. It's interaction at the same time. So in terms of costs, when we do this procedure, typically each unit of Botox costs about $8 to $10. And so when I'm doing a typical face, let's say this would be about $250 to do the forehead, $250 to do in between the eyes, and $250 to do around the eyes. If you combine it, I always give a better price. So if let's say people are doing the 3 areas together, instead of $750, it'd work out to $650. But I think doing that twice a year, that's a small price to pay to avoid lines getting deeper. So again, it's relaxing. What can I do as prevention? It's much harder to treat a problem than it is to prevent a problem from occurring in the first place. So I look at Botox as one aspect of prevention. And you can, it's really an art. Yeah, the other thing is that people ask me, well, can anybody do this? No, it really is an art. You really got to put the right amount in the right place with the right doctor and right patient and right price. And also the right product. I like Xeomin the most. And why do I like Xeomin? Xeomin is a wonderful product because it's a more pure product compared to regular Botox that was originally from Allergan. And Allergan, you got to realize, has become a monster of a product. Allergan was actually one of the biggest corporate takeovers in history. I think it sold for about $80 billion. And that was all because of the discovery of two Canadian physicians. So Allergan was a contact lens company. It was a contact lens. They made contact lens solution, and they had this simple product which was used for strabismus, and they were trying to find a use for it. And these two Canadian physicians essentially came out and made their company the largest powerhouse in all of the cosmetic business. So they went from a company that was really worth not much, but these two Canadian physicians discovered the cosmetic uses of Botox, and then bang, it was like drugs. So it's a great story. It has a Canadian connection, which I love, and it's prevention. So botulinum toxin is really a component of prevention in what we do. It's an integral part of all the things I do. It's changed a lot of how we treat wrinkles and how we avoid wrinkles. But again, once somebody waits too long, that's where I got to use the refilling and the repaving, and I think that's still a component. I use all these things myself, so it's simple things that we can do, and I combine this with good nutrition as well. I recommend a lot of vitamins as well in my practice. I use hormones in my practice when people need it. So I do believe that hormones are an addition to all of this. So I really look at anti-aging medicine and what we can do to help prevent things. So number one thing to do, prevent sun exposure. Number two, relax the face and moisturize the face, refill it, repave it, and repair it. And I can do all those. So feel free to call my office anytime at 514-482-3456. You can check out my website at www.lasermontreal.com, and I'll be doing this weekly. Actually, one of the highlight I think has been when I discussed nymphoblasty and labiaplasties a couple of weeks ago. I got so many comments and people calling the office about that procedure. But everything I do is under local anesthesia. You don't have to go to sleep, and there are so many things we can do, but without ever having to cut the skin. So good skin is I think something that can be achieved by everybody, and there are very simple things we can do. So feel free to contact my office, 514-482-3456, or check out our website at www.lasermontreal.com. It's been a pleasure being here. If you guys have any questions, feel free to get in touch. Talk to you soon. Have a good night. Don't drink too much tonight.